So today I want to take you through our diamond dry cut. This is the method we use in our West End salon. We break this down into 3 key steps. Step 1 is the one length outline. Step 2 is the layered shape where it becomes 3-dimensional. And step 3 is where we texture the hair to create a personality that's more individual and to balance the weight around the hair. My model today is Simona. She has lovely hair, although as ever, she's not happy with it. She would like more volume. And I can immediately see how we can rebalance the hair, adjust the layers, and make it more proportional so that she gets the volume that she wants from her hair. First, I'd like to cover some of the fundamentals, the 2 most important parts of your kit. The combs I've always used are these vulcanized rubber combs. These are unlike molded plastic combs, which are molded in 2 halves and sandwiched together, and often carry imperfections on the teeth, which can lacerate the cuticle. I've never favoured very small scissors because I feel that they create tension in the arm, and in my years of training I have seen people develop bad habits which then take a long time to undo and hold them back in their progress. If you find that both blades are opening when you're working, you're probably going to need to have a packet of plasters close at hand because you won't be in control. In terms of holding the scissors, very important, one blade is held between the knuckles of the 3rd finger, the other, the thumb, just rests inside and again isn't allowed to go too deep. The scissors rest on these 2 fingers here and that provides support, and the thumb opens the blades. The comb sits in the heel of the hand here, and you may want to use your forefinger on the top, but that is a very steady, controlled position. How you hold the comb and master the hair into position is the key to hairdressing. Now, creating a hairstyle is very much carving a shape from this organic material. And there are lots of similarities with what a sculptor does with a block of stone. The sculptor will use geometry to access the shape that he wants and take away the excess. But one factor a sculptor doesn't have to take into account is a moving object. And if the bust is moved forward, the hair shape doesn't change. If it's moved to the side, the hair shape is the same. That's not true with real hair. So when we're working, we have to assume a controlled position, and we take this rest position of upright being what we are working to, and that's critical to getting the shape that you want. The idea of cutting the shape in it really can be quite scary. And it's really all about control and access. How do we access this shape, this moving material? And we do that with clean sectionings. We break it down into small parts that we can control. And the most important sections to start are in half and then quarters. Always easier to comb all of the hair in the direction you want to make the section. So with the tip of the comb here, we place that along the scalp and then separate to give us our first section in half, and then likewise down the back. And we want to comb all of the hair out of the way that we're not going to work on. The next section goes from the crown to the top of the ear. And I will comb this forward section out of the way, leaving the back as the quadrant I'm working on, this piece here. Now, Simona's hair is very long, so I'm going to stand her up to start the back so that I have a bit more control. Again, we comb all of the hair into the hands in the direction that we're going to make the section. we like to work on the hair wet. Gives us a little bit more control. Flat planes. We don't need to see the texture at this stage. Now, Simona's hairline isn't particularly irregular, but a lot of people will have irregularities, especially down here at the nape here, and they'll have hair that perhaps grows up or to the side, and it's really important that you get the comb cleanly into those lower parts to get the tension. Otherwise, that lift will take up maybe as much as half an inch, and a finished hairstyle will end up with little bits hanging underneath that haven't been cut. This very first cut is the foundation for all the sections that go above. The way the system works is that each layer, section that you take becomes the guideline for the next section, the section above. So it's important that you work really cleanly and don't cut your guidelines. You okay, Simona? It was 8 inches off you wanted, wasn't it? Yeah, good. You can always trust your hairdresser. These top layers here don't reach the bottom. They're part of the previous layers, which we will go over after we've dried the hair off. And that's the first quadrant completed, one length. And you know that you've actually done a good job when you can keep combing the hair, and each time you comb it, it's still straight. So we've finished this back quarter, and now we're going to move on to the front quarter of the left side to complete this whole side. So we're going to take the section slightly lower, which gives us a little piece of hair that we've already cut, and that gives us a guideline on the right also. And again, we're combing the hair dead straight down, no lift. This outline is the foundation that supports the layered shape, and it's really, really important that this is accurate. As we spoke about this rest position of the client, it makes assumptions of where the hair will lay if gravity is allowed to work on its own without any force. We have two terms, lift and direction, which describe the hair going in two different planes. Lift being up and down, and direction left to right. These we'll use when we start to layer the hair, but when we're working on one length, it's really important that we have no lift and no direction. We have to assume that the hair is falling as gravity intends, and that's our controlled position. So I will tip Simona's hair very slightly away from me to compensate for my fingers coming underneath and lifting the hair very slightly. We then want to be sure that there's a fluidity of line from the back all the way to the fringe. Any sudden drops in the layering or the outline will cause a separation in how the hair moves when it's dry. So the outline is very important, but then also when we come to layer, the balance of weight between the front, the side and the back is also very, very important. As this outline is our foundation, we want to create a fluidity here, both in the outline and in the layers, which means that as the hair moves, it will all move together and it will stay connected. Now, the key areas where I see errors a lot on the outline are at the temples here and around the ears. This hair here grows much lower than the hairline up here, and likewise around the front, the hair on the widow's peak here is much lower and thicker generally than the hair at the temples here. So when we come to layer, I'll explain more clearly how you have to compensate for those areas of thinner hair. So I'm going to work my way up in these sections, giving myself a really good foundation that I can trust when I come to do the layers. And I comb the hair into sheets, resting them on my hands, and that allows me to take a steep angle. Much easier to take a shallow angle across this way, but then we'd have a problem connecting here. Whilst this is harder, this is the angle we need to connect into the long base. So very little hair from this top section is reaching the perimeter, just a few odd pieces. What I find doesn't work with hair that's graduated around the front is to leave the longest point at the front here. Sometimes people will cut graduated coming down and then very sharply coming up. And especially on hair that has some body, that long point tends to create an obstacle to the sides and the back moving fluidly together. If there's an extreme of graduation here, I will either straighten it out or continue getting slightly longer towards the back so as to maintain a flow of balance.